Meghan Markle has finally laid the myth to rest.
And poor old Meghan and Harry put up with this all the time over there in California.
The narrative that Meghan Markle has meticulously curated since leaving the UK is one of a woman who just wanted to protect her family, secure her peace, and escape a toxic institution. She constantly sells the image of a deeply devoted wife who is entirely supportive of Prince Harry's complicated healing journey. But on their 8th wedding anniversary in May 2026, the mask completely slipped in the most public, digital way possible. What was supposed to be a romantic celebration of their highly publicized royal wedding instantly turned into a massive PR disaster and a deeply humiliating moment for Prince Harry. To mark 8 years of marriage, Meghan decided to release a massive photo dump of never-before-seen images from their May 19, 2018 wedding. On the surface, sharing behind-the-scenes glimpses of an intimate reception, dancing, and glamorous celebrity guests like Elton John seems like standard Hollywood operating procedure. But the devil is entirely in the details.
I think you're wrong about the potential book scales for Skid Markle, Kev. I think we'll let...
Of a ginger lamb to the slaughter getting sucked into a forlorn future, swapping.
Or, in this case, in exactly who was left out of them. Across the dozens of highly stylized, mostly black and white photos shared with the world, the actual British royal family was glaringly, deliberately erased. There were photos of Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland. There were photos of celebrity friends. There were glamorous shots of Meghan gazing lovingly in her Stella McCartney reception gown. But the family that actually hosted the wedding paid the staggering multi-million-dollar security bill and provided the 1,000-year-old historic backdrop for the entire event, completely scrubbed from the digital record. Watch how these independent royal commentators reveal the absolute panic inside the Sussex camp, exposing on their podcasts and news channels how Meghan's calculated attempt to rewrite history completely backfired, turning what should have been a romantic tribute into a deeply cruel statement. For Prince Harry,
she uses people's suffering. I think she uses people's grief.
If you remember, not long ago, William, who she likes very much.
The psychological toll of this public photo dump is staggering. No matter how fractured his relationship with the palace is today, that wedding day was a deeply emotional moment shared with his bloodline. King Charles literally walked Meghan down the aisle when her own father was absent. Prince William stood right by Harry's side as his best man. Queen Elizabeth II gave her blessing and provided the iconic tiara, sitting on Meghan's head. But Meghan's anniversary post effectively reduced Harry's entire family to irrelevant extras who ended up on the cutting room floor. Independent YouTubers and global commentators completely tore into this move, pointing out the absolute cruelty of forcing Harry to watch his own heritage be cropped out of his own love story.
Very hastily put together, I'll just say, maybe using some sort of...
They eclipse the sun.
Yeah, I think so. They're facing
Wesley's balls could eclipse the sun, but not normal balls.
Just to fit his wife's Instagram aesthetic, it highlighted a terrifying reality for the Duke of Sussex. He didn't just give up his royal titles to move to California. He is actively watching his wife erase his past. By heavily featuring Hollywood elites while entirely ignoring the royals, Meghan didn't just snub the monarchy. She publicly humiliated her husband. She reminded the world that, in the Sussex brand, the only history that matters is the history that Meghan controls. But, as we are about to see, this blatant attempt to weaponize a wedding album immediately triggered a massive backlash that sent Montecito into a total tailspin when Meghan Markle hit publish on that highly curated anniversary photo dump. The expectation inside her Montecito PR camp was likely universal praise. She anticipated glowing headlines about her stunning gowns, her A-list connections.
Desperation now. I mean, I don't think we have seen a more desperate week.
I was going through Nicole Avant's social media and I saw that she had attended some events and there were all these...
And her timeless, epic romance. She assumed the public would simply consume the glamorous aesthetic and ignore the glaring omissions. But the internet is entirely undefeated when it comes to spotting a calculated PR maneuver, and the backlash was absolutely instantaneous and mathematically brutal. Instead of swooning over the black and white Hollywood aesthetic, the global public immediately zoomed in on the sheer, undeniable narcissism of the post. People from all over the world flooded the internet to point out the absolute absurdity of releasing dozens of photos from a globally televised royal wedding while completely pretending the royal family didn't exist. The hashtag Where's Charles began trending, pointing out the deeply uncomfortable reality that the very man who stepped in to walk Meghan down the aisle when her own family was absent wasn't even given a passing glance in her official memories.
Meghan was also under fire because she took a photo with someone who I'm pretty sure was...
A police investigation will find, we'll have to wait and see, an abuse of power and an irresponsibility in his role.
Watch how these independent podcasters and YouTubers break down the absolute ratio this photo dump received, completely tearing into the Sussex camp on their channels for thinking the public was actually gullible enough to ignore this blatant historical erasure. But the anger wasn't just directed at Meghan. It shifted into a wave of profound secondhand embarrassment for Prince Harry. The public looked at this photo dump and saw a man who has completely lost all agency in his own narrative. Harry has spent the last several years doing high-profile interviews, sitting on therapy couches, and publishing a memoir all centered around how deeply his childhood and his royal family impacted him. Yet, on his own wedding anniversary, he was reduced to a mere prop in his wife's Hollywood portfolio.
Probably anywhere he wants and live a very, very nice life. But of course, when you're in that place, you kind of wonder whether...
I mean, it was an abysmal failure, and it just shows you what happens when she does put these things together herself, and she doesn't have,
Listen to how this independent news anchor exposes the humiliating reality of Harry's situation, pointing out that a man who constantly lectures the world about healing and compassion is actively allowing his wife to digitally erase his own father and brother from the most important day of his life. Thought 2. Photo dump completely shattered the illusion that Harry and Meghan operate as an equal partnership. It proved to the world that the Sussex brand is entirely, ruthlessly controlled by Meghan's vision. Harry's history, his heritage, and his family are only useful if they can be weaponized for a Netflix documentary. Otherwise, they are coldly cropped out of the frame.
Not trying to just steal the late Princess Diana's, name to sell your clothing. So distasteful about this woman. She just does things that are so not the way things are done.
As the negative comments piled up and the global press began calling out the cruelty of the post, the mood in Montecito reportedly shifted from celebration to absolute unadulterated panic. The Sussex PR machine realized that instead of dominating the news cycle with a romantic fairy tale, they had just handed the world undeniable proof of exactly how cold and calculated their brand truly is. As the global internet ruthlessly tore into the anniversary photo dump, the panic inside the Montecito mansion was reportedly compounded by the absolute crushing silence coming from across the Atlantic. For years, the Sussex PR strategy has heavily relied on a toxic game of ping-pong with the British monarchy. They release a provocative statement, drop a bombshell documentary, or post a calculated photo, entirely expecting Buckingham Palace to react, leak, or issue a response. They thrive on the friction, but this time, when Meghan Markle essentially tried to digitally erase King Charles and Prince William from royal history,
says, oh, why do you pit the two women against each other? Why are you pitting Catherine and Meghan against each other? Well, Kate is trying to do...
For many, many years, and in the end, the truth came bursting out because he was uncontrollable. But a quick word about Harry.
The palace deployed its most devastating, unbeatable weapon. Absolute, unbothered silence. Buckingham Palace did not issue a statement. They did not leak a counter-narrative to the British press. The working royals simply went about their daily duties, completely ignoring the desperate cry for attention emanating from California. This lack of reaction was a mathematically precise maneuver that completely neutralized Meghan's power play. By refusing to acknowledge the photo dump, the royal family made the Sussexes look incredibly petty and entirely irrelevant. It highlighted the terrifying reality that the monarchy has fully moved on, leaving Meghan boxing with shadows. Watch how these independent royal experts and body language analysts break down this exact dynamic on their YouTube channels.
Renewing vows in the media, and now I'm wondering if the issue isn't renewing them, it's finding enough people willing to attend. And then she posted this video, and it was very effective, P. Dinah, because it showed,
pointing out that the palace's absolute refusal to engage is what truly sent Meghan's PR team into a total, uncontrolled tailspin. The fallout from this silence reportedly triggered a massive internal crisis for Prince Harry. The photo dump was supposed to be a celebration of his marriage, but instead, it became a glaring digital mirror reflecting his total isolation. While the internet was laughing at the blatant narcissism of the post, Harry was left to process the fact that his father, who walked his wife down the aisle, and his brother, who stood by him at the altar, were now officially treated like forbidden topics in his own home. He traded a millennium of history and deeply loyal family ties to become a silent bystander in a Hollywood influencer campaign. Listen to how this independent news anchor exposes the tragic reality of Harry's situation on their podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. Meghan does this because, yes, she can't do it on her own. And it's like stealing the legacy.
Noting how this cruel photo dump proved that Harry isn't a co-creator of the Sussex brand, he is merely a captive audience to his wife's vendettas. The internal crisis was undeniable. Harry is a man who has always fiercely defended his military history, his mother's legacy, and his royal roots, even while attacking the institution itself. But watching his wife casually delete his entire heritage from their wedding album just to curate a flawless anti-royal aesthetic forced him to face the most humiliating truth of his exile. He didn't just burn the bridge to his family. He handed the matches to someone who was completely willing to erase the bridge ever existed in the first place. When the deafening silence from London became too much to bear and the global internet ratio reached a fever pitch, the Sussex PR machine went into absolute frantic overdrive.
Said in that Online Safety Act speech that she did in Switzerland earlier, I mean, just quickly, she goes...
And all that. So, I don't know, some people think he'll get away with it altogether.
Meghan Markle's team realized that their highly curated anniversary stunt had backfired spectacularly, so they deployed their standard emergency protocol, aggressively leaking excuses to sympathetic American tabloids. Almost overnight, sources close to the couple began whispering to the press that the photo dump was never intended to be a royal snub. The new, desperate spin was that Meghan simply wanted to focus on the intimate, personal moments of the day, highlighting their private love story rather than the grand, institutional weight of the monarchy. It was a classic Montecito pivot, and absolutely no one bought it. The internet was quick to point out the mathematical absurdity of this excuse. You cannot claim you are just focusing on intimate, private love when you are simultaneously posting wide-angle shots of Elton John, Idris Elba, and an entire roster of Hollywood celebrities.
Cheese underneath your suits.
But you lived in America. What's the storage? Is it different? I know they don't really have toasters, do they? Have those muffin sort of thing.
Well, yeah, they have toasters.
And your kettles are...
Watch how these independent YouTubers and PR experts completely dismantle this pathetic excuse on their channels, laughing at how Meghan's team actually expected the public to believe that cropping out the groom's own father and brother was just a harmless, aesthetic choice. The fallout wasn't just limited to angry royal fans. It rapidly spilled over into Meghan's coveted Hollywood circle. According to industry whispers, the A-listers who were heavily featured in the photo dump felt deeply uncomfortable with how their images were used. In Hollywood, true power players avoid messy public family feuds at all costs. Celebrities do not want to be weaponized in a petty Instagram war against the British monarchy. by using photos of her famous guests to deliberately highlight the absence of the royals.
Question, Samara.
Ofcom has criticised YouTube, saying it's not safe for kids. What do you think?
Scheme for her. I mean, this is obvious, isn't it? Because she can't do it herself. So that's why she's trying Lily.
Meghan effectively dragged these celebrities into her toxic family drama without their permission. The photo dump didn't make her look like she belonged in the elite crowd. It made her look like a deeply bitter ex who uses her friends to try and make her former in-laws jealous. For Prince Harry, the PR scramble only deepened his humiliation. He was reportedly left to deal with the agonizing reality that his wedding anniversary had been entirely hijacked for a cheap PR stunt. In the days following the digital disaster, paparazzi caught glimpses of the Duke around Montecito, and the global public instantly noticed a staggering shift in his demeanor. He looked exhausted, grim, and completely checked out. Listen to how this independent body language expert breaks down Harry's miserable public appearances during this exact week, pointing out the undeniable physical signs of a man who is entirely trapped in a PR nightmare of his wife's making.
Worry about Meghan.
Such a good point. Such a good point, actually. And that's an important philosophy. When you're talking about the chaos, P. Dinah, of the week, it was very obvious that a lot of this stuff was done last minute and that she may have made a faux...
The desperate spin from the Sussex camp completely failed to put the fire out. Instead of rewriting history, the photo dump only proved to the world that 6 years after fleeing the UK, Meghan Markle is still entirely obsessed with the institution she claims to hate. And worse, it proved that she is completely willing to publicly humiliate her own husband just to settle a digital score. We have reached the absolute conclusion of this digital disaster. The fallout from the anniversary photo dump wasn't just a fleeting internet controversy. It was a defining, permanent crack in the foundation of the Sussex brand. For years, the world wondered exactly what the dynamic was behind the gates of their Montecito mansion. This single, calculated post finally gave everyone the undeniable answer, and it signaled the absolute point of no return for Prince Harry. The deepest tragedy of this entire saga is the sheer, mathematical reality of what Prince Harry actually gave up compared to what he was left with. He walked away from a 1,000-year-old bloodline, a deeply rooted British heritage, and the fierce, unconditional protection of the most famous institution on earth.
Yeah. Well, the Queen let him get away with anything, and I think she probably, because she thought about her sister who was the number 2, I think she felt sorry for him and, you know, mollycoddled him.
And when I saw that view of the closet, it looks like a closet, like what we call here in America, or a cabinet.
He did it all under the promise of finding freedom and building an authentic, loving life in America. But the photo dump proved that he didn't find freedom at all. He simply traded the rigid protocols of Buckingham Palace for the ruthless, superficial curation of Meghan Markle's PR.
Machine. He gave up his place in actual history just to be
cropped out of an Instagram grid. Watch how these independent royal experts and cultural commentators summarize this tragic downfall on their channels, pointing out the agonizing reality that Harry has essentially become a hostage to a Hollywood aesthetic. Watching his own legacy be deleted pixel by pixel, this controversy permanently destroyed the one thing the Sussexes desperately needed to survive: the public's sympathy. For 6 years, Meghan and Harry monetized their victimhood, demanding empathy and constantly accusing the royal family of being cold and unfeeling. But releasing a cruel, calculated anniversary post that deliberately erases the groom's own father and brother completely shattered that illusion.
I was hosting it, obviously.
I do just want to present the producer perspective, which is also that you've got a lot of pressure on you to get views, clicks, likes, and also...
So the odd death doesn't...
You cannot demand global compassion when you are publicly engaging in such petty, vindictive behavior. The world looked at that photo dump and realized that the Sussexes aren't the victims of this story. They are the architects of their own isolation. Listen to how top entertainment podcasters expose the final truth about this brand collapse, noting that the general public and the Hollywood elite alike are completely exhausted by the toxic games. When you show the world exactly who you are, the world eventually stops giving you second chances. The dust has settled on the anniversary that was supposed to relaunch their epic love story, and the Montecito Empire is looking more fragile than ever. The royal family didn't collapse. They simply closed the doors, focused on their duty, and starved the Sussex PR machine of the oxygen it desperately craves. Prince Harry is now learning the hardest, most devastating lesson of his exile. When you allow your partner to burn every bridge to your past, you eventually find yourself stranded on an island. The anniversary photo dump was Meghan's ultimate power play, but all it really accomplished was proving to the globe that the fairy tale is over. The A-list friends are uncomfortable. The public is entirely done with the manipulation, and Harry is left standing alone, staring at a curated album of a wedding that no longer bears any resemblance to reality.